During many moments in our lives, we hit a turning point, a state of transition we can't turn back from. That state can be mental, it can be physical, it's tough to define, but the feeling is one many can relate to. One way we found to convey this state is through what are known as liminal spaces. These are areas which may appear mundane, yet somehow metaphorically represent the emotions felt during those periods of our lives. These spaces appear disconnected from our reality. They exist in their own world. To be liminal means to be on the threshold of something, to be in the middle of a transitional period. Physically, an example of this would be a hallway where you're going from one point to another. What is liminal is fairly subjective, and it can be applied to so much. It's just an individual, a culture, time itself, moving from one state to another. The general idea of liminality is an anthropology concept used to describe that tinge of ambiguity we all feel during those transitional periods. The middle point between how you once were and how you will be when the transition concludes and your new existence is established. Technically, going by that definition, all of life is a liminal space. It's a transitional period between the time before you were alive and the time after you pass. Anthropologist Victor Turner coined the term to describe the point in between a rite of passage, where someone is no longer who they were at the start of it, nor who they'll be at the end, like the middle of a wedding ceremony or a school graduation. Physical liminal spaces are areas that all have that same feeling. It sounds weird, but these really are heavily defined by the vibe. Everyone has their own memories and interests, so each individual will connect to these differently. These are places that give off nostalgia and comfort, but also a varying degree of eeriness. You like looking at these, and they might remind you of good times, but they also might feel a little off. One thing's consistent between all these though, and that's that you'll never see another human in them, just the area itself. One of the best things about these is that as the term is so flexible, they're relatable to tons of people, and at the same time, everyone has their own personal liminal spaces. These locations give off different feelings depending on the circumstances, as well as your own perceptions. It's an infinitely fascinating phenomenon with tons of variants. The term liminal space has been in use for a long time, but these didn't really get their modern meaning and became more widely recognized by the general public until the 2010s. This Tumblr post from 2016 lists places where reality feels altered, listing areas they believe gave off a weird vibe. A great reply to this post explained the feeling in detail, explaining that many of the places listed are examples of a liminal space. There are many mentions of the term from before this, and while it's not quite the modern movement, the ideas are all there. The concept started getting a lot of attention thanks to a now very well-known 2019 4chan post, describing the backrooms, introducing the idea of these spaces to a wider audience. The backrooms are what greatly helped launch the modern scene of these spaces being shared online, but it's also been spun off into its own huge universe of ideas. It's basically a completely separate topic at this point. What makes the backrooms such an incredible concept is that its intrigue doesn't stem from a known entity. The original post alludes that there could be something out there, but the emotions come from just the area itself. It's fun to add lore to it and design creatures and concepts, but the actual room is what's truly liminal. Some other examples of common liminal areas include stores, schools, public walkways or parks, transportation terminals, highways, hallways, hotels. They really could be anywhere. To me, these are mostly just areas that bring back good nostalgic memories, or areas you wish you could have gone to and experienced. I never really got an unnerving feeling looking at most of them, more just intrigue and appreciation for their unique appearances. Looking at them is like rewatching old TV bumpers, or listening to sounds every kid in your generation remembers. Many say all of these areas feel oddly familiar, like they've been there before. Most likely you haven't been to this exact spot, but you've been somewhere similar, and so the impact is still there. It's also very likely that when you're looking at these and are familiar with the concept, or are even looking up examples of a liminal space, your brain knows what you're here for, and you decide, yeah, that's a little weird looking, man. But it's less the area is actually really scary, and it's more just you looking for the vibe, and so your brain decides, yep, spooky. If you found a photo like this one on a home buying website, in that context, you'd know it's just a photo of a room in the house. But removed from their original intention, these photos are given new context. Home sellers always take photos without people in the shots. Don't they know how close they are to a liminal space gold mine? Just dim the lights and fuzz up the quality a little bit, and there you go. There's something inherently captivating about there being an evil, twisted side to things you're familiar with. So photos that show a dark, sinister version of Taco Bell are sure to get the neurons firing as well. Areas you went to as a kid are often brought up because of their nostalgic properties. But what if things are not all that they seem? Abandoned or dying malls are another common sight with these. I love malls, so it's sad, but it's really neat. I know a big appeal of these is their spook factor, but to me, I just love looking at architecture like this. So seeing these funky buildings and structures is so interesting to me. Look at all these weird locations that somehow exist in our world. Isn't that cool? How can you feel nostalgia for somewhere you've never been, or something you've never experienced? That would be what is known as anemoia, nostalgia for a time you've never known. It makes sense. If you see media that showcases a moment in time you feel is better than now, of course you'll feel a longing for it, to go back to what you think was a simpler time. Looking at old photos of buildings, movie theaters, play areas, any photo of a grocery store stocked with discontinued foods you can't get anymore, the anemoia I feel looking at Domino's Oreo pizza. You've never experienced it, but you want to. Nostalgia can be a bad thing. It can skew your perception. But in the context of these spaces and in many others, it can help you figure out the things you really enjoy. Everyone has their own specific ideas and moments that create nostalgia, so places that trigger feelings like this will be different depending on who you are. One man's disgusting dilapidated store is another man's liminal space. Everyone loves time capsules that remind them of the better days. These are like those, only in the form of archeology. You'll see a lot of vacant retail stores described as liminal, a store with no one inside. It's weird, because stores are made to generate as much foot traffic as possible. This is what is known as kenopsia, the eerie, forlorn atmosphere of a place that's usually bustling with people, but is now abandoned and quiet. These spaces are also often dreamlike. Have you ever had a dream that you felt really happened? Have you ever wondered if some of your memories were actually dreams and your brain has forgotten that you dreamt it? Like your earliest memories, do you have proof that they happened? If not, can you say for sure it's not just a made-up memory? These places are often framed to be dreamlike, as if they're snapshots of memories you think you had, but can't remember correctly, though maybe they never happened at all. As you fall asleep, maybe you start to disassociate what is reality and what is a dream. This is what is known as hypnagogia, the transitional state of mind between being awake and asleep. That's a liminal space. Dreams can often put you back in situations from your past, but your memory is never exact. Another big appeal of these is that they remind you of how mysterious the world was when you were younger. Stumbling onto a soda vending machine is not as magical as it once was, but seeing one in a new context kinda sparks that old feeling. These having that dreamlike quality, a commonly seen area with a slight twist, recreates that intrigue that many of us have lost. And before we wrap up, there's another term that I've felt forever but never knew there was a recognized word for until recently. That word is sonder, the realization that each random passerby is living a life as vivid and complex as your own. It sounds kinda obvious, but when you really think about it and apply it to other aspects of the world like all these real locations, it's insane to think about. You will only ever know your own self, and at the same time, no one will ever fully understand you. You are unique. Every person, every location, everything has its own story. Looking at these strange locations, you wonder how an area like this could exist and why it's in the state it's in. What is its history? One day, you'll be gone, but your SpongeBob basketball will still be there. How will these structures look centuries from now? Will the vacant malls still stand? Everything that's man-made in our world needs at least some forethought. Everything has a story, and so many of those stories get forgotten over time. You may know of GameStop, but did you know there was a Movie Stop? It was a separate brand of stores that were founded in 2004 that were all closed by 2016. It was like GameStop, but with movies instead of games. Surely at least one person out there had a great connection with their local movie stop, and now it's gone forever. That guy is devastated, but someone who had never gone to one or maybe doesn't even buy DVDs would think, why would anyone care about that? Nostalgia is all based on what you yourself experienced. People who grew up in different decades will relate to different things. Same for people who grew up in different parts of the world, or the type of life you had growing up. But no matter who you are, we can all easily identify good memories and what connects with us through looking at these. They are incredibly powerful tools for recognizing nostalgia. These invoke so much curiosity, creative thinking, imaginative storytelling, and so much more. You can find the origin of a location, or make up your own narrative of how things got this way. This phenomenon leads to so much unique thought, so much creativity and discussion. It's really something special. Many of us long for the past in some shape or form. Maybe you experienced something in your life that fundamentally changed who you are. Whether that change was good or bad, sometimes you may wish you could go back to the way you thought before it. You can dress up your room to look all Y2K and buy your vintage Garfield merchandise, but when something changes in your brain, it can be very hard to recreate how you lived before, even for just a moment. You're just different now. There's more than just nostalgia going on here. There are times in life where you might find yourself just waiting for things to happen. Waiting days, weeks, months, years for things to change. You're in the transitional spot between one era of your life and the next where you've reached a new satisfying status quo. That time spent in between feels uneasy. If you're in a state of liminality in any way in your life, even if it takes a while, one day, you'll be able to reach a better future and be glad you did. Chances are you haven't experienced your best memories yet. There must be something out there in the present day that'll make you feel similar, if not better, than how you did back then. I guess these new happy memories will then eventually manifest themselves into a new longing when they become future yous past. Well, if that happens, I guess you'll just have to keep making good memories forever. Good luck. Liminal spaces don't exist inside the flow of time, and are free from the common worries of life. There is no past, no future, just now, in your empty corner store where time doesn't flow. That perfect world doesn't exist. Life is full of imperfections that we can't anticipate, but those flaws make our lives what they are. We'll never live in the perfect McDonald's at night world, but that's okay. Our world's McDonald's aren't so bad. I guess looking at old photos can be melancholy in general. It's sad those times are over, but there's a reason you get fuzzy looking at them. Over in Spain, there was a grocery store called Cash Pope. It was the funniest thing in the world. It closed its doors in 2022. Everything comes to an end eventually. But we have photos of it. Cash Pope's memory lives on. We all know nothing lasts forever, but I feel the passage of time is why we all work so hard during the time we do have. If life went on forever, there would be no meaning to the here and now. With it being finite, as sad as that is, it means every moment has significance. And even if you're lost, time pushes you forward to find a new path. So, with the time we do have, let's explore all our world has to offer, and check out all the vacant retail stores, all the empty pools, all the endless hallways. Maybe one day we can make new memories and there will be a cool party in that abandoned mall. Let these liminal spaces guide you to the places you wish to see in your future, where you can witness how beautiful our world truly can be.